Far away from any star, in a cold and empty part of space, a powerful alien fleet moved in perfect formation. The ships were large, dark, and silent. They had traveled across many systems and destroyed many worlds. To them, space was simple. It followed rules. Everything had logic. But today, something was wrong. Without warning, every ship in the fleet stopped at the same time. No order was given. No enemy was seen. Still, they stopped. Inside the main command ship, the alien commander stood still, his sharp eyes fixed on the glowing screens. His crew waited for instructions, but none came. The systems had already made the decision. One of the officers spoke in a low voice. "Commander, we are detecting a signal." The commander frowned. "From where?" The officer hesitated. "That is the problem. It has no clear source." The room became quiet. That was not possible. Every signal came from somewhere. Every wave had a path. This was a basic law of the universe. Even the youngest alien child knew that. "Scan it again," the commander said. The officer obeyed quickly. His hands moved fast across the controls. New data filled the screens. But the result was worse. "Commander, the signal is changing." "Changing? How?" "It does not follow any known pattern. It is not stable. It is not even real in the normal sense." The commander stepped closer to the screen. Strange lines and symbols moved across it. They twisted, broke, and reformed again. It was like the signal did not want to be understood. A second officer spoke, this time with clear fear. "It is not just a signal. It is affecting our sensors. Some systems are reporting errors." "Errors?" the commander asked sharply. "Yes, our scanners say the signal exists and does not exist at the same time." The commander's expression hardened. That was impossible. Their technology had reached near perfection. It had no room for such mistakes. "Find the source," he ordered. "We are trying, Commander. But it is everywhere." The words hung in the air. Everywhere? Before anyone could speak again, a new alert flashed across all screens. "Unknown object detected." The crew turned toward the main view window. At first, they saw nothing, just empty space. Then, something appeared. A shape. A ship. It did not fly in. It did not jump. It did not warp. It simply appeared. One moment, space was empty. The next moment, a human warship was there. The entire command room froze. "Replay that," the commander said quietly. The system replayed the last few seconds. Again, there was nothing. Then suddenly the ship was there. No energy spike, no movement, no sign of arrival. It broke every known rule. The officers stared at it in silence. The ship was not very large. Compared to their fleet, it looked small, simple, even weak, but something about it felt wrong. Very wrong. "Scan the object," the commander ordered. Multiple systems activated at once. Energy scanners, heat sensors, deep structure analysis, everything focused on the human ship. Seconds passed, then the results came in, and none of them made sense. "Commander, we cannot lock onto it." "Explain." "Our sensors cannot read it properly. Every time we scan, the data changes." Another officer added, "Its mass is unstable. Its energy levels are impossible. It is like the ship is not fixed in reality." The commander's eyes narrowed. "Is it cloaked?" "No, Commander, it is fully visible, but it does not behave like a normal object." The commander looked at the screen again. The human warship remained still. Silent. "Watching. Try a deeper scan," he said. The officer took a breath and activated a high-level scan, something they only used on unknown threats. The system worked for a moment. Then suddenly alarms rang out across the ship. "Error, error, error." The lights flickered. "Stop the scan." The officer shouted, but it was too late. The system shut down by itself. On the screen, one final message appeared. "Object does not follow known reality." The room fell into complete silence. No one spoke. No one moved. Even the commander felt something he had not felt in a long time. Uncertainty. Then, without warning, a new signal appeared. Clear, stable, simple. The human ship was sending a message. "Put it on the main channel," the commander ordered. The officer nodded and activated the audio. A calm human voice filled the room. Cold, quiet, certain. "You should not be here." The words were simple, but they carried weight. Not a threat, not anger, just a statement. The alien crew looked at each other. No one knew how to respond. The commander stepped forward. "Identify yourself," he said firmly. There was no answer, only silence. The human ship did not move, did not react. It just stayed there, watching, waiting. The commander clenched his fist. This was wrong. Everything about this situation was wrong. A single human ship, standing before an entire fleet, and speaking like it had the power to stop them. It made no sense, and yet, no one in the room felt confident anymore. Outside, in the dark and endless space, the human warship remained still, like it had always been there, like it did not care about numbers, or power, or fear. And deep inside every alien on that ship, one quiet thought began to grow. This is not a normal enemy. The command room remained silent long after the human message ended. No one spoke. No one moved. The alien fleet, known across the galaxy for its power, now faced something it could not understand. The commander slowly walked back to his central position. His face was calm, but his mind was not. He had fought many wars. He had seen advanced weapons, strange species, and impossible tactics. But this felt different. "Status report," he said at last. An officer quickly answered. "All ships are holding position. Weapons are ready. Shields at full strength." "Good," the commander replied. "Keep all systems active." He turned his eyes back to the human warship. It had not moved. It had not powered up weapons. It had not even tried to hide. It simply waited. That was the part that disturbed him the most. "Commander," another officer said carefully, "we should consider retreat." The room reacted immediately. Some officers nodded. Others looked shocked. "Retreat?" the commander repeated. "Yes," the officer said. "We do not understand this enemy. It may be a trap, or something beyond our level." The commander remained silent for a moment. Then he shook his head. "No," he said firmly. "We do not retreat from a single ship. But, Commander, we are the dominant force in this sector," he continued. "If we retreat now, we show weakness. That is not acceptable." The officer lowered his head and said nothing more. The commander looked at the human ship again. "If it wants to scare us," he said, "it will fail." He raised his hand slightly. "Send a probe ship. Forward, no attack, just observation." "Yes, Commander." Within seconds, a small alien ship separated from the fleet. It moved slowly toward the human warship. All eyes followed it. Every system focused on that one moment. The distance between the two ships began to close. Nothing happened. The human ship remained still. The probe ship moved closer. Still nothing. Distance. 10,000 units, an officer reported. "Continue," the commander said. The probe ship moved closer again. 5,000 units. The tension in the room grew. Some officers held their breath. Others stared without blinking. 2,000 units. The probe ship was now very close. Still, the human ship did not react. "Commander," an officer said, "we are within close scan range." "Begin scan," the commander ordered. The probe ship activated its sensors. For a moment, everything seemed normal. Then, "All systems unstable," the officer controlling the probe shouted. "What happened?" the commander demanded. "The data, it's changing too fast. We cannot hold a fixed reading." On the main screen, the probe's feed began to glitch. The image of the human ship broke into strange shapes. Lines twisted, colors shifted. Reality itself looked Damaged. Pull the probe back, the commander said quickly. But before the order could be completed, the probe ship vanished, just like that. No explosion, no sound, no signal. It was simply gone. The command room froze again. What just happened? One officer whispered. No one answered. The commander's eyes narrowed. Did it fire a weapon? No, Commander, another officer replied. There was no energy spike, no attack signature, nothing. Then how did the ship disappear? Silence. No one knew. The commander clenched his jaw. This was no longer a simple situation. This was a threat, a serious one. Prepare a warning shot, he ordered. The crew hesitated. Commander, are you sure? One asked. Yes, he said. We will test its defenses. The order was given. One of the larger ships in the fleet moved slightly forward. Its main weapon began to charge. Energy gathered at its core. The glow grew brighter and brighter. Then, fire. A powerful beam of energy shot across space and hit the human warship directly. The impact should have destroyed it instantly. But, instead, nothing happened. No explosion, no shield, no reaction at all. The beam passed over the ship like it was not even there. The crew stared in disbelief. Direct hit confirmed, an officer said slowly. Damage? The commander asked. The officer checked again, then again. His hands began to shake. Commander, there is no damage. The room fell silent. That is not possible, another officer said. But it was true. The human warship was completely untouched, as if the attack never happened. The commander stepped closer to the screen. His confidence was beginning to crack. What kind of technology is this? He murmured. Before anyone could respond, the human ship sent another message. This time it was not just sound. It appeared directly on every screen. Clear, simple, cold. You were warned. A chill ran through the entire command room. Then something changed. The space around the human warship began to move. Not like normal movement, not like ships or stars. It was deeper than that. The stars behind the ship started to stretch. Uncertainty, light bent in strange ways. Time itself felt slower. Commander, an officer whispered. Something is happening. The sensors began to fail again. Systems turned off and on without reason. Data stopped making sense. It's affecting the entire area, another officer said. We are losing control of our readings. The commander felt it now. Not fear, but something close to it. For the first time, he realized a simple truth. They were not facing a stronger enemy. They were facing something that did not follow the same rules. Outside, the human warship remained still, unchanged, untouched, like it was the center of everything. And slowly, the alien fleet began to understand something terrifying. This battle was never going to be fair. The command room no longer felt like a place of control. It felt like a place waiting for something bad to happen. No one spoke loudly anymore. Even small sounds seemed too sharp in the silence. The alien crew watched. Their screens, but the screens were no longer reliable. Data flickered. Numbers changed without reason. The human warship remained in the center of it all, still, calm, untouched. The commander stood with his hands behind his back, but his mind was moving fast. He had to understand. He had to regain control. Stabilize. All systems, he ordered. I want clean data. We are trying, Commander, an officer replied, his voice tight. But the errors keep coming back. Another officer added, It is like our systems cannot agree on what they are seeing. The commander looked at the main screen again. The human ship appeared normal, but every time he blinked it felt slightly different. Closer, then farther. Sharp, then unclear. As if reality itself could not decide where the ship truly was. Focus visual only, he said. Ignore deep scans. Yes, Commander. The advanced sensors were reduced. Only basic. Visual systems remained active. For a brief moment, things became stable. The ship looked simple again. Metal structure, clear shape. No strange distortion. It almost looked harmless. Almost. "Commander?" a young officer said quietly. "What if it wants us to see it this way?" The commander turned his head slightly. "What do you mean?" "What if this simple form is not real? What if it is just what we can understand?" The room went silent again. It was a dangerous thought, because it felt true. Before the commander could respond, a sharp alert sound broke the silence. "Commander, multiple ships reporting. System failure." "Which ships?" "Sector 3 by unspreading." On the main display, several ships in the fleet turned red. Their status changed rapidly. Weapons offline. Navigation offline. Communication unstable. "What caused this?" the commander demanded. "We don't know," the officer replied. "There is no attack detected." The commander's jaw tightened. No attack. Yet damage is happening. He looked back at the human warship. It had not moved, not even a little. "Open fleet-wide communication," he ordered. A channel opened across all ships. "This is your commander," he said, his voice strong and steady. "Maintain position. Do not panic. We will regain control." His words were clear, but even he could feel it now. Control was already slipping away. Suddenly, another voice broke through the system. It was not one of theirs. It was the human. "You continue to resist." The voice was calm. No anger. No rush, just quiet certainty. The commander stepped forward. "You interfere with our systems," he said. "Explain your actions." A short pause followed. Then the human voice returned. "Your systems interfere with themselves." Confusion spread across the room. "That makes no sense," one officer whispered. The commander narrowed his eyes. "You expect us to believe that?" he asked. Another pause. Then, "You are trying to force reality to behave in one way." The lights flickered again. Several screens went dark. "We are not." The words echoed in the room. Some of the crew felt a cold feeling run through them. Not because of the message itself, but because of how true it felt. "Commander," an officer said slowly, "what if this ship is not attacking us directly?" The commander did not respond. "Then what is it doing?" another officer asked. The first officer swallowed. "What if it is changing the rules around us?" Silence. Heavy silence. The idea was impossible, but everything they were seeing was also impossible. Before anyone could speak again, another alert appeared. "Commander, ships in Sector 5 are moving without orders." "What?" the commander snapped. On the main screen, several ships suddenly changed direction. They turned away from formation. Some moved closer to the human ship. Others drifted off into empty space. "We are not controlling them," the officer said. "Their navigation systems are not responding." "Override them," the commander ordered. "We tried. Commands are not going through." The commander felt something cold settle inside him. This was not just a threat anymore. This was a collapse, not of ships, but of control. Then, the human warship moved, but not in a normal way. It did not fly forward. It did not accelerate. It simply appeared somewhere else. Closer, much closer. Gasps filled the room. "Distance?" the commander asked quickly. "Less than 1,000 units. "That's impossible," another officer said. "It didn't cross that space." But it was there, right in front of them, silent, watching. The commander stared at it. For the first time, he felt something he could not hide. Fear, not loud, not wild, but deep and quiet. "What are you?" he whispered. The human ship answered immediately. "We are what happens when your understanding is no longer enough." The words hit harder than any weapon. Around them, the fleet continued to fall apart. Ships drifting, systems failing, commands ignored, and at the center of it all, the human warship remained perfect. stable, untouched, like it belonged to a different level of existence. The commander slowly straightened his posture. He understood something now. This was not a fight they could win by force, but his pride, his duty, would not let him surrender easily. "Prepare full fleet attack," he said quietly. The room froze. "Commander," one officer said, almost pleading, "that may not work." The commander closed his eyes for a brief second, then opened them again. Cold, focused. "We will not fall without trying," he said. Orders spread across the fleet. Weapons began to charge. Energy built up once more. Even broken systems pushed themselves to function. Outside, the human warship did not react. It did not move. It did not prepare. It simply waited, as if it already knew the outcome. And deep inside every alien ship, one silent truth began to grow stronger. They were not about to start a battle. They were about to witness something far worse. Across the fleet, weapons began to charge again. It was not clean or perfect like before. Some ships struggled, some systems lagged. But the order had been given, and every captain followed it. Energy built up in waves. The dark space around the fleet slowly filled with light. Inside the command ship, the commander stood still, watching everything with sharp focus. He knew this. Attack might fail. He knew they were facing something beyond logic. But he also knew one thing. If they did nothing, they would lose everything without even trying. "Status?" he asked. "Weapons charging at 70%, an officer replied. "Some ships are still unstable. Push them," the commander said. "We fire together." "Yes, Commander." The seconds passed slowly. Each moment felt heavy. The human warship remained in front of them, silent, unmoving, waiting. The commander stared at it. There was no fear in that ship. No sign of defense, no sign of preparation. It was like it did not even see them as a threat. That thought made something burn inside him. "Ready," an officer announced. All ships locked on target. "HFY?" Commander lifted his hand. This was it. Fire. At once, the entire fleet released its attack. Beams of energy cut through space. Missiles followed behind. Wave after wave of destruction moved toward the human warship. For a brief moment, it looked unstoppable, like nothing could survive it. The attacks reached the human ship and passed through it. No explosion, no impact, nothing. It was as if the ship was not even there. The command room went silent. Again. "Direct hits confirmed," an officer said slowly. "No effect," another officer whispered. "It's like we are attacking empty space." The commander did not speak. His eyes were locked on the screen. For the first time, he began to understand the truth. They were not missing. They were not weak. Their attacks simply did not matter. Then, something changed. The human warship did not move, but space around it did. The stars behind it stretched and bent. Light twisted into strange shapes. Time itself felt heavy. "Commander," an officer said, his voice shaking. "Our internal clocks are desyncing." "What does that mean?" "Different parts of the ship are experiencing time at different speeds." The commander turned sharply. "That is impossible." "Yes, Commander, but it is happening." Another officer shouted, "Weapons are shutting down." "Why?" "They are reporting that firing is no longer possible." "That makes no sense. We just fired." "I know, but the systems are saying those actions cannot happen again." The commander felt the ground of logic break beneath him. Actions that cannot happen again? What did that even mean? Before he could think further, a new wave of chaos spread across the fleet. Multiple ships losing power, navigation systems failing. Some ships are reporting they never fired at all. The commander looked back at the screen. The human warship was still there. Perfect, untouched, unchanged. It was like everything else was breaking. Accept it. Then the human voice returned. Not loud. Not angry. Just calm. "You insist on outcomes that are no longer allowed." The words echoed through every ship. The commander stepped forward. "What are you doing to us?" he demanded. A short pause followed. Then, "We are removing possibilities." The fleet did not celebrate when they returned. There were no victory signals, no proud messages, no loud voices. Only silence followed them across the stars. The ships moved slowly through safe space, far away from the place where reality had broken. Even now, systems still showed small errors. Not dangerous ones, but reminders. Reminders that something had changed. Inside the command ship, the atmosphere was calm, but heavy. The officers spoke less. They checked their systems again and again, even when everything looked normal, because now, normal did not feel safe anymore. The commander stood near the main window, looking out at the stars. They looked the same, but he knew they were not. "Commander?" an officer said gently. "We are receiving incoming messages." "From where?" he asked without turning. "Multiple sectors. News of our retreat has spread." The commander closed his eyes for a brief second. Of course it had. A fleet like theirs did not simply turn back without reason. Other species would notice. They would ask questions. "What are they saying?" he asked. The officer hesitated. "Some are confused. Some do not believe it. Others are afraid." The commander nodded slowly. "Send them a response." "Yes." "Commander, what should we say?" He took a moment before answering. "Tell them the truth," he said. The officer looked surprised. "The truth?" "Yes," the commander replied calmly. "Anything less would be a mistake." The message was prepared. Simple, direct, clear, and soon it spread across the galaxy, not as a warning, but as a fact. Far away in different parts of space, other civilizations received the message. Some laughed. They thought it was a trick, a lie. How could such a powerful fleet retreat from a single human ship? It made no sense. Others were more careful. They studied the data. They noticed the missing ships. They saw the gaps in the recordings. Moments where information simply did not exist. That scared them, because lost data could be explained. But data that had never existed, that was something else. In one distant system, a council of alien leaders gathered. They watched the report in silence. "The fleet claims no weapon was used," one of them said. Another replied, "That is impossible. Ships do not disappear without cause." A third one spoke slowly. "Unless the cause is something we cannot measure." The room became quiet. "Do you believe this?" one asked. The third leader looked at the screen again, at the empty spaces, where ships should have been. "I believe," he said carefully, "that we are no longer the most advanced minds in this galaxy." Back on the commander's ship, the final reports were being completed. Losses recorded, systems checked, crew accounted for. Everything was done with care, because this was not just a mission report. It was history. "Commander," an officer said, "final analysis is ready." "Show me." The main screen changed. Data filled the display. But even now, some parts were missing. Blank spaces, unexplained gaps. "What did the scientists say?" the commander asked. "They cannot form a full conclusion," the officer replied. "Every model fails. Why? Because the event does not follow any known law." The commander gave a small, almost tired smile. "Yes," he said. "We already know that." He looked at the data again, then asked, "What is their best theory?" The officer took a breath. They believed the human warship was not using force, but control. Control of what? The officer hesitated again, then answered quietly, "Control of what is allowed to happen." The commander nodded. That matched what he had felt, what he had seen. "This changes everything," another officer said. "Yes," the commander replied, and he meant it, because war had always been simple. Stronger weapons, better strategy, faster ships. But now, there was something else. something beyond all of that. Later, when the ship entered a secure zone, a final private message arrived. It did not come through normal channels. It did not follow standard communication paths. It simply appeared, just like the warship had. "Commander," an officer said carefully, "we have an unknown signal." The commander turned. "Source. Unknown." He stepped closer. "Put it through." The room grew quiet again. The message opened. No image, no symbol, only a voice. Calm, familiar. "You learned." The commander's eyes sharpened slightly. "You allowed us to leave," he said. "Why?" A short pause. Then, "Because the outcome required it." The commander frowned. "Required?" "Your survival creates a message." The words were clear, simple, but heavy. The commander understood. "You wanted us to tell others." "Yes." Silence followed. Then the commander asked the question that had been in his mind since the beginning. "What are you?" This time the pause was longer, not empty, but thoughtful. Then, "We are still becoming." The line went quiet. The signal ended. No trace, no path, nothing to follow. The room remained silent. No one spoke. The commander slowly turned away from the screen. He looked out at the stars again, endless, calm, unchanged. On the surface, but now he knew the truth. Somewhere out there, humanity was no longer just another species. They were something new, something growing, something that did not fight for power, but shaped it. "Commander," an officer asked softly, "what do we do now?" The commander stood still for a moment. Then he answered, "We adapt." The officer nodded, because there was no other choice. The galaxy had changed. The rules had changed. And from this point forward, every species would have to decide one thing, not how to defeat humanity, but how to live in a universe where humans decide what is possible.